Hello everyone, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yin Yoga. I'm your instructor Mike and I'm happy to have you with me this evening. What we're going to do for tonight's practice is a hip series. I think it's been a while since we've done one, so I wanted to make sure that we keep up on this kind of practice. And when we're talking about the hips, we're referring to the IT bands, the hip flexors, quads, inner thighs, right? All these major areas that involve a lot of hip movement. So this is going to be a real nice universal practice for a hip series. But a few things you may want to grab before we get started. You may want to have your yoga mat. It's always nice to have something comfortable to lay on. You may want to have like a hand towel, a yoga strap, kind of the same thing. Pillows or blocks, any kind of prop that you feel like you need. Pause the video, go ahead and grab it. And then when you have it, come back in and we'll start the practice. But when you're ready, you can go ahead and close your eyes. You can lay on your mat if you'd like to. You can always sit upright like you're in meditation. Just wherever you're most comfortable, go there. When you're there, you're going to close the eyes. Start focusing on your breath, breathing low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. And if you ever want to double check if you're doing that correctly, place a hand on your stomach below the belly button. You'll feel the stomach expand with an inhale. It will contract with an exhale. And this is belly breathing. It's the technique that I recommend for our practice, our slower paced yin practice. And we want to slow the body down, so breathing low in your diaphragm will help with that. And actually, why don't we just spend the next minute or two focusing solely on the breath to help us ease our way into the yin practice. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. We'll start our practice off loosening up the hips and the spine. So you can lay on your back, go ahead and just cradle your legs, and you're going to rock up and down, you go side to side, make some circles, crack your back if you can, always nice to do that. Again, this is just a warm-up for us to prepare for our workout. I guess I should say it's not really a workout, but kind of in a way. But stretching is the most passive form of working out. It's still important, right, to maintain the joints, the health, the hips and the spine. So we just want to make sure we stay on top of all of that. But today, be again more focused on our hips, which a lot of people will have issues with at some point. So when you're ready, we're going to start this one off with a twist pose, reclining twist. You're already laying down, so what you're going to do, you're going to take your legs over to a side, lay them on the floor. This is going to be your pose. And the intention of the twist is just to start getting the side body, depending on which way you're twisting. For example, I'm twisting left. So with this, I'm stretching the lower right side of my back, my obliques on my right side. I'm also feeling a little bit on the outside of my right leg, my IT band, a little in the glutes as well. So this particular pose kind of works both the hips and the spine. You know, we're twisting the spine, but we're also rotating our hips, right? And this is where that warm-up starts to come into play here. But you may find out you want to block when you're in this. You want to put a block in between your knees, under your bottom leg. You could even do both, or the inner thighs. Just wherever you're most comfortable with that block, use it. Especially if you're struggling to get the knees together or the legs to the floor, or especially this, if you're not feeling that broad side body stretch, but maybe it's more localized in the back of your hips, you definitely want to use that block to help avoid that kind of pain. Because anytime you feel like you're directly stretching into a joint, you're overstretching something. So please don't push through that. But if you're in this and you're saying, I'm actually feeling like little to no stretch, you may want to consider just going deeper into it. And one of the easier ways to do this is by taking your top leg over your bottom leg. See how this kind of crossover happens here? There's more rotation in the pelvis now. That's what increases the intensity of the stretch. But I would only recommend this if you're feeling, again, little to no stretch. So if you're feeling plenty here with the knees stacked, then I would just say stay there. But if you're like, yeah, I'm getting like nothing, then you take that top leg over. And we'll hang out here for another like 30 seconds, another minute. We've already been here for about 2 minutes. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can slowly unwind from your twist. And take your time on out. You may just want to lay down a little bit. It's going to feel really nice. You know, knees bent, feel on the floor. You can always slide your legs out to the end of the mat. Again, just wherever you are most comfortable, hang out there for a minute. And when you're ready, we'll do the other side. For me, I'm going to the right. So again, I just want to face the camera so I can look at it the entire time. But with the twist, you know, knees up to the chest, legs over to your side. I'm going right here to feel the lower left side of my back stretch, right? Nice, broad, oblique side body stretch all through here. Also, again, feeling a little bit of the IT band, a little bit of the glute. This is kind of just the bonus, though, right, on the leg. The intention is really for the oblique. But then it's also to, again, rotate your pelvis, right? Turn deeper into this. Ways to use a block, in between the knees, under your bottom leg, possibly both. It's, you know, really up to you as to which one you're going to do. But you might be fine. Here you might not actually need a block. Maybe here you got the knee stacked, you're totally fine. Or maybe you feel like you want to go deeper into this. We did mention this on the other side. Taking your top leg over the bottom leg. So in this example, I'm twisting right. My top leg would be my left leg. So I'm taking my left leg and rotating it a little bit more into this to increase that side body stretch. But we'll see how it goes, you know, because two sides aren't the same. You probably get here and just notice that intuitively, like, oh yeah, this side is tighter. Or maybe not, maybe this side is a little bit more open, has a little bit more flexibility. Just try not to worry too much about the alignment between those two sides, because that perfect alignment doesn't exist, so there's no point really worrying about it too much. The thing that we want to focus on is, are we stretching this side, right? Do you feel that broad side body stretch? If you say, yeah, I got that, then you're exactly where you need to be. So I'm going to hang out here for another minute. And when you're ready, this time's real slow. You're gonna unwind from that twist and lay down, right? You got that minute to do whatever you need. It may just be knees bent from the floor. You know, for some people though, they might actually want to bring their knees back up to the chest. Maybe you want to lay those legs out as far onto the ground as you can go. Still, again, you got a minute to yourself. The next target area that we're going to work into is going to be our quads. We're going to play around with our hip flexors as well. But just so we all know, quads are your upper thighs, right, the front of the legs. Hip flexors, though, are a little bit higher up towards the pelvis. You might feel a little bit closer, a little bit higher up. again, towards the hip sockets themselves. Not, again, directly in the hip socket, should still be broad across that. So we're gonna do a dragon pose tonight. With a dragon pose, you're basically doing a lunge. I'm gonna show you from two sides here, both angles. With a dragon pose, you got one leg in front, you got one leg behind. And just so we know, it is the back leg squat, right here through the front of that leg, that's gonna get the stretch here. And you'll also feel a little bit of it going up, higher up into the hip flexor. Again, maybe I'll show you from the other side here so you can get visual. So again, right here through the front, but you also feel it run, maybe even into the obliques a little bit, into that side body. Ever so slightly, you might feel that. But now we got our direction here. You're gonna stay on this one side again for a while, so you're gonna wanna get comfortable. That's gonna involve probably playing around with your hands. You know, both hands on the floor might feel nice. Some people like to have one hand on the inside and one on the outside so that they can rest their chest on their knee. It does help with the bearing of the weight in this particular pose, because it can be very muscularly challenging here. Something that I like to do is kind of turn into my front leg, a little bit of a twist going on here. So let's say, for example, I got my right foot in front. If I turn to the right a little bit, it opens up that hip flexor of that left leg, right? So it's turning away from it. So it would be the opposite if you have your left leg in front, you would turn left into it to increase. But you do whatever you need, right? You might be totally fine where you are in this, but allow yourself to breathe, right? Some deep inhales, some deep exhales. I know this is a very challenging pose, probably the most difficult physically that you would do in this kind of practice, because again, you're holding yourself up for a while. So for a lot of people, this is kind of like almost out of the question. May want to consider propping up a little bit more. I don't want to go too far out of the camera, but if you can imagine, right, elbows on the knees, and some people will be like totally up straight into it. But again, since I want to stay down right here, I'm not gonna lift up too much. You do it how you need though, right? It's your body, it's your practice. And whatever you do, it's all good with me. When you are ready, though, we're going to say that's the time. So just real slow, you're going to let yourself out. A lot of times it's going to be heading into what we call a runner stretch, where you have that front leg straightened out, and then you work your way into a child's pose. We'll hang out in the child's pose again for that minute. Other side when you're ready, whichever one that is for you. But for me, I have my left foot in front, I have my right leg behind me. So again, we know the front leg is not the intention. This is the support leg. It's the back leg that you want to be stretching. So be right here through the front of that back leg. We had mentioned a couple of ways to modify it. You know, both hands on the inside of your leg, or one on the inside, one on the outside, so you can rest your chest down the knee. A lot of times this is going to be just nice for some more support here. Really up to you. We did talk about more of like a higher lunge, you know, where you prop yourself up right here on that front leg. Yeah, again, you could be like perfectly upright with it if you wanted to be. Or you could turn into your front leg a little bit. That's what I'm going to do here. I love this emphasis of turning into it to adjust my pelvis. A little bit of an angle change here. So I have my left leg in front. If I turn left a little bit, that's going to dial up that hip flexor stretch. And hip flexors are really important to work. A lot of us are going to be tight in it, especially if you're very active. Most of the time, this is just going to be an area that's habitually tight for you, so it's really important to stretch out. But also, if it becomes too tight, it can pull your pelvis forward in what's called an anterior tilt. This is really common, right? It starts to pull that pelvis forward, throws everything out of whack with your back. Because when your pelvis starts going forward, it misaligns the L5-S1 joint. That's the joint where the lumbar meets your sacrum. So basically it's where the hips meet the spine in that particular joint. And if that goes out, you're going to feel a ton of pain there. A lot of sharp pain. It's going to be really, really uncomfortable for you. And it's not something that we want to deal with because it can be debilitating. Like you feel like you can barely walk sometimes. So that's why we want to make sure we're maintaining its range of motion, keep its flexibility, so that we don't have that pelvis go too far forward. You want to have it nice and balanced wherever that is for you. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's going to be your time. You're real slow. Let yourself on out. Straighten that front leg for a runner stretch. And you're going to work back into that child's pose. Take your time there. The next target area that we're going to worry about is going to be our IT bands, iliotibial band. If you are not working your IT band and hip flexor, you're doing it wrong. And I normally would never say that, but this is so important for us to work. Again, that's the outside of the leg, running from hip to knee. A couple of ways to do it. I'm going to show at least two for our practice today. One of them is called eye of the needle. And this is where you use a little bit of muscular effort. So you lay on your back. You're going to cross the leg over. Let's say you're crossing your left leg, just again for the example. Take your left hand, thread it through that needle, right? So I've called that through the hole. Wrap the right arm around, and you're going to grab your right shin, and you're just going to pull it. And the more you pull, the more of this crossed leg that you're going to get, right? So it should be nice and broad. Now, sometimes I'll do this, but a lot of times with me, at this point in my life, I've been doing this for so long, muscular effort poses just don't really do it for me anymore. Now, not to say that it's a bad thing, right? If you're fairly new to this kind of practice, you'll probably throw yourself in this pose and feel plenty of the stretch. But me, I'm almost feeling nothing. So that's why I like to switch it up and do something else, like Swan Pose. We call pigeon, just depending on the style of yoga you're doing. And it's the outside of the front leg, getting the stretch. This is probably our most common pose that we do in this kind of practice. But it's still, again, IT band, outside of the leg. Right, but if you feel any knee pain or any hip pain, play around with the pose, right? It might just be a matter of crossing your leg over, adjusting yourself a little bit in a certain way, and that's just something that you gotta kind of guess. But anytime you feel something stretching directly into a joint, just know that's a no-no right there. You never want to feel that, otherwise you're more than likely just gonna hurt yourself, and let's not do that. Right? I wish I could be there with you all, but unfortunately I can't. And we'll see about doing some live classes. I know we have some planned for the summer, but I don't want to spoil anything because it's going to be a lot of fun to do. But just know probably, I think in June and July, we'll be doing some special yoga classes here at the library. So be on the lookout for that. Say when you're ready, there's going to be the time for you. So it's real slow. You're going to make your way on out. Usually it's just letting go if you're in that eye of the needle, or rolling out of your swan pose. Take a minute. Other side, when you're ready, whatever side that is for you. I'll show you the eye of the needle, and I'll show you the swan pose again. But with eye of the needle, you're laying on your back. You cross that leg over. I think we all started on the left side, so you should be on the right. You cross this right leg over. You take your right hand to go through that little hole there in between your legs. The left arm wraps around, but both hands will grab the left shin. And the more you pull on that left shin, the more of the right leg's IT band you should be getting, right? So it should be nice and broad here on the outside of the leg. But if it's knee or hip pain, here's where, again, crossing it over might help, or taking it out a little bit further. You gotta, again, play with that one for yourself. And then Swan Pose was the other one. And if you're just more comfortable with doing this one since we've been doing it for so long, by all means, go for it. You do whatever is best for you. And if you're a regular of mine and you have a different way that you want to stretch this, that's totally fine too. Sometimes we do shoelace pose, which is a forward bend, square pose, another forward bend. We don't really have a wall and access to a wall here in this practice, but you could modify eye of the needle to do it up the wall. And instead of grabbing that leg, you would just rest that foot up against the wall and slide the foot down to increase your stretch, or scooting in closer will help too. There's lots of ways to do this, right? There's no one absolute way of stretching your IT band, or any part of your body for that matter. There's so many different ways to do it, and that's why I think it's important for us to be comfortable with experimenting in our practice. Don't get too complacent on, I'm only going to do this pose, because there's a couple of different ways that you could do this to keep your practice fresh, keep your body on its toes, and just feel a different experience every time you do a different pose. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, just give me a time for it. Just real slowly let yourself on out. Path of least resistance. You got your minute. We're going to stretch the inner thighs next. And I was going to suggest something that is more of a hip opener. We always, well, at least I always show the butterfly pose, but I'm going to show a variation of this one today. Now, if you do want to start bending forward, feel free. Butterfly pose, you got soles of feet together, you fall in round in the pose. Inner thighs and back are your target areas. But if you want to make this more about your hips, you could always do a reclining butterfly pose. I'll show you from the side. You've got the soles of feet together. You lay on your back, right? You let gravity do the work here for you. So it's going to, really be up to you as to how you approach this one. I'm already kind of telling that I'm not going to enjoy this solely because I don't have anything blocking my feet from sliding out. See this, right? And this is actually becoming very uncomfortable. It's not a deep stretch anymore. I'm starting to feel this more compression-wise in my hips. If you have a yoga mat, you probably won't run into this problem, but I don't. I'm actually filming right now on a green screen mat, so my feet don't have the leverage. And if I hold my legs here, if I try to keep my feet here, I'm like flexing muscles to make this happen. And we know that tightening muscles in this practice is not what we're going for. We want to be able to let muscles soften here as best as we can. So if they don't soften, you're not going to work into your joints appropriately. So I'm going to do a forward bend today. I can keep myself here a little bit easier. But again, if you're close to a wall, you're close to something that you can position your feet against, you can prevent them from sliding out so that you can relax a little bit more into that pose. Honestly, even if I have a yoga mat, I'll usually adjust it to get close to a wall, to do it that way, to have my toes up against the wall so that they won't slide out. Right? You got something to block you from going. But it makes it more about the hips in that pose to keep the pelvis and sacrum level with the floor. Now, if you want to bend forward, you get the benefit of working your back, so it's going to be really up to you. For some people, they're going to say, my back is tight, so I want to work that. Hey, that's totally fine. You do whatever you want. And like I said, your body, your practice, no right or wrong into it. It just comes down to, what do you need today? Every day we do it's different. Right? Some days you just need hips. Some days you need more spine. Some days you need both. When you're ready though, there's going to be our time for this one. Just use your hands slowly, push out, lean back, lay down, take the time, right? Relax here. We only have a few more things to do. We got to Stretch our hamstrings for about a minute, then we'll do a back bend. We'll wrap this up. And even though those aren't really for the hips, we've done so much work that, we don't want to just skip the area, so might as well do it. So like I mentioned, our hamstrings are coming up next. And this is the back of the leg, right? The back upper half going on here. And you'll feel your back as well because we're going to do a forward bend. Caterpillar pose. Both legs out, lean forward, grab something here. Could be anything. Could just be the knees, the shins, ankles, around the feet, toes if you can grab them. But it's not a competition, so if you can't touch the toes, don't worry about it. It's not the point. The point is to just feel the back of your leg stretching in your back. Wow, I'm very tight today. I went for a run yesterday. I haven't done that for a while. And boy, are my legs tight. That's actually kind of the reason why I taught a hip series. I was a little selfish today because I knew I was really tight in my hips. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to teach a hip series today. One of the benefits of teaching this virtually is me getting to do the practice. I think it would be very difficult for me to teach this, and especially for you to practice it, if I wasn't doing this practice. So sometimes it's nice. Just remember to breathe. We're only going to be here for probably like a total of 2 minutes. We focus more on our hips today. This is just a little bit of work for the back and for the hamstrings. Nothing too strenuous. And when you're ready, there's that minute. So real slow. Lean back. Lay down. Got one more pose left. So our next and last yin posture is our back bend. And I'm going to show two options, but the first one I'm demonstrating right now is the Sphinx Pose, where you lay in your stomach, you prop up on your forearms and elbows. This is the pose. It's a dull pressure right here in your lower back, in the lumbar spine. That's all it should be. Dull and gentle. Another option for you, and I know a few of my regulars are probably already heading to this, but supported bridge. If you have your yoga block, you can always put it under your back and then lay on the block. Right? That would be the pose there. But since I don't have a block, also because I'm teaching, I like to be more upright so I can see the camera. Right? So with this, again, it should just be a dull, gentle pressure in your lower back, right here in your lumbar spine. But if you start feeling sharp pains in any of these poses, please lower down because it's not therapeutic. The more you push through that sharpness, the more likely you are to hurt yourself. But again, we're not going to be here for too long, so I just want to make sure that we're doing just enough for our spine. There's two things you need to do for your spine every day. One of them is bend forward, the other is bend backward, right? So we did a forward bend with the hamstrings, may have done it with the butterfly, but we need to do a back bend to complement that, right? Even though it's not really designed for the hips, but it's still something that you should be doing. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there is your time. You're real slow, lower down, lay on your stomach. Take your time. If you're in a supported bridge, you're going to lift the hips up. Slide that block out so you can lay on your back. after a back bend like that, it's going to feel nice to do a gentle forward bend. So something like a child's pose or laying on your back to cradle the legs will work. Anything that's a gentle forward bend, though, is fine. We are at the end of our practice. If you're ready for Savasana, for your corpse pose, you can lay on your back if you like to. You can lay on your side. Some people would prefer to sit upright, but that's going to be up to you. Wherever you're most comfortable, just go there. And when you're there, you can close your eyes. You have nothing to see at this point, but just more to feel and pay attention to. Go ahead and focus on your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses, your awareness within. And for the last few minutes, observe the work, right? Just really observe all those changes you've made within the last half hour of your practice. No formal ending to our practice, so you keep your eyes closed as long as you like, but that's officially all that I have for you. I want to thank you all for watching, sharing your practice with me. It's been my pleasure. Namaste.